Welcome back to CSE 3200. We're going to be continuing with part 2 of chapter 18. The translations editor is a helpful tool that you can use to keep track of all the translations you've made for all the text in your project. Making sure you provide a version of each string for each language you add can be very difficult, so this tool can help simplify the process. To launch the translations editor, right-click one of the strings, one of the string files in the project tool window, and select Open Translations Editor. It displays all the app strings and the translation status for each of the languages you have. Any field that is not provided will be highlighted in red. Device configurations for which Android provides configuration qualifiers to target resources are listed in the image to the right here. For the example we're going to be doing in this chapter, we're really only going to be using 2. You could find descriptions for all these in the link provided here, but for our purposes today, we are not going to be going over all this stuff. Given the many types of configuration qualifiers, there may be times when the device configuration will match more than one alternative resource. When this happens, qualifiers are given precedence in the order shown in the previous list. To see this prioritization in action, we will add another alternative resource to criminal intent, a longer English version of the crime title hint string resource to be displayed when the current configuration's width is at least 600 dp. When criminal intent is running on a screen that is at least 600 dp, this change will display a more descriptive, engaging hint for the title field. Okay, so now we're going to create this alternative resource. Create a new file resource called strings, like we did previously with the Spanish strings, but select screen width in the available qualifiers list instead of locale. Click the arrow button to move screen width to the chosen qualifiers section in the screen with box that appears enter 600. The directory name will automatically be set to values W600dp for you. Now open up the string resource you just created and input the field for the crime title hint. A small note to be made is that you should only provide alternatives for only the resources that will be different based on the configuration. So you don't have to redo all of the strings if they're the same. This should make it much easier to manage resource files because you would only need to change one file if those resources just need to be the same. Now we're going to test the alternative resource we just created. If you open your app while your device is still set in Spanish, you will notice that rotating your screen does not cause the text to change. The Spanish language alternative has precedence, so you will see the string from strings.xml ES instead of strings.xml W600dp. We will fix this in the next part. The way we're going to fix this is by creating a new strings file that has multiple qualifiers. You can put more than one qualifier in a resource directory, and when using multiple qualifiers on directories, you must put them in the order of their precedence. This is correctly configured for you by the new resource file dialog, so you don't really need to worry about that. Create a directory for a widescreen Spanish string by selecting both locale and screen width in the new resource file dialog. Make sure to input the correct values for both and then create the resource file. If you reload your app, the alternative resource should now appear when the device is rotated. Now we're going to talk about finding the best matching resource. Android determines which version of crime title hint to display based on the hierarchy of qualifiers that we talked about previously. The first step that Android takes to find the best resource is to rule out any resource directory that is incompatible with the current configuration. After incompatible resources are ruled out, Android starts working through the precedence list shown previously. Once it finds the highest precedence qualifier available in the resource directories, it will comb through the rest of the resources with that qualifier, checking additional qualifiers in the same manner until a resource is finally selected. Another helpful tool that allows you to test alternative resources is the layout editor. You've already seen this in the design view of if you were to go into your resource files previously, but it is important that you test your app on different device configurations to see how the layouts in other resources look in those configurations. Using this tool, you can try different orientations, locale, and any other configuration you could think of to see if the default resources are in action, if additional resources that you add correctly take the place of previous ones, and generally just make sure that your whole app works the way you intend it to.